Hey, all, this is Ryan Monceaux, and this is Afterthoughts from GoCougs.com. We're trying to get it together in Rice Stadium. It's a little hectic. Internet's a little, but while we do that, let's do some other things. How about an intro video, and then we'll come back if y'all are okay with that. I mean, what do I know? This is going really well, I think.
I'm Stuart Gus, official personal injury attorney of U of H Athletics. As you know, a great quarterback wins championships. If you've been injured in an auto accident, big or small, you can trust Gus to quarterback your case.
Call 866-TRUST-GUS today. Principal Office, Houston, Texas.
So the score is still on the scoreboard, 43-41. Houston loses to Rice in double overtime. U of H was down 28-0 at one point in this game, which is mind-boggling how that could ever happen. The Cougars scored once in the first half. They got an INT on one of the worst balls you'll ever see thrown into an end zone. And then they plod back. They don't storm back, but they plod. They score a few times. To start, they ran a 15-play drive to start the half and got nothing out of it. And they came back, they scored a few times, they score with 15 seconds left. They get the ball first in overtime, score, Rice scores again, gets it 2 points. U of H scores, doesn't get the 2 points. A lot of things that you could go back to. I'm going to just shoot off the hip. Starns is looking for a spot so he can sit. We can't do this together because of the weird audio things. Your comments are coming in and they make me laugh. Not gonna lie, that was not my favorite U of H game. Well, thanks, Zach. I can probably say that is how a lot of people feel. For me, it was one of the 5 dumbest games I have ever seen in my life. When have you ever seen a team score 35 unanswered points and lose? That doesn't happen. Nobody does that. But it happened tonight because U of H was down 28-0. In the postgame, Dana said that his team may have started overlooking Rice. They had a very good Tuesday practice. Dana said, I believe he said it was the best Tuesday practice they'd had since he's been here. But then he said the Wednesday practice, not so good. Maybe they worked out too hard. Maybe they had an issue with being a trap game. But whatever it was, there's no excuse for what that scoreboard shows, 43-41. You came out in that first half and got bamboozled. Rice whooped you for 29 minutes and 40 seconds. They just whooped you up and down the field. And they took chances. They were aggressive. They did everything you would expect to see from a U of H team going into the Big 12. And when JT Daniels threw that terrible interception, here comes. Hello, Starns. So we were saying that this is all your fault and that everything would have gone fine. We were a failing team, overrated coach. I can't get the play out of my mind. The player got tackled by Rice. Didn't know where to stand. I said that this is the dumbest game or one of the dumbest games I've ever seen in my entire life. U of H just got manhandled. It was 28-0. And frankly, it could have been more. Rice didn't score on that 5th drive. They only had 5 drives in the first half. They scored on 4 and an INT in the end zone. U of H had 4 drives. But Rice did everything you would expect the new team going into the Big 12 to do. They were aggressive, they played with heart, and they played with discipline. And then in the second half, those two reversed. U of H, maybe not with discipline, but they played with heart. And they played like it was inevitable that they were going to come back and win. And they didn't. But these two halves were completely different from each other. Do you want to talk? Because I've been talking for 5 minutes and 45 seconds.
Rice played like this was a rivalry game for them. They played like it was a rivalry game. And U of H played like it was just a team that they were going to beat no matter what, like you said.
Like an FCS team.
Like an FCS team, like Sam Houston State in a couple weeks, And
they're D1 though. They're FBS, but yeah.
Yes.
I'm with you.
My apologies. But it was just so. Even with the comeback, how do you can't go down 28-0.
No,
you just can't. I mean, that's. I'm not breaking news there, but
you're really not.
You can't expect to win. You can't expect to win a game. I don't care who you are or how much more talent you have or whatever. If you go down 22-0, you can't stop the team at all. And then at the same time, you finally score at the end of the half. But those first, 3-4 drives in the second half? It was the first 2 drives were failed fourth down conversions.
Yeah.
First one was at the goal line, didn't get it. Second one was sort of around midfield. They were driving, didn't get it. And then Rice fumbled. They finally were able to score, and then I believe they took a sack on the third down and scored the drive after.
Yeah, that's right.
Just those 3 drives right there, if they convert, they're already up going into the fourth quarter or towards the beginning of the fourth quarter. And you just can't make those mistakes at that point of the game. And, the only reason they got back into it is because Rice just refused to burn the clock efficiently in any way. And I know
this was the most maddening thing to me. Like, I want to see good football. And Rice has their truck and their logo, their slogan is intellectual brutality. And frankly, that's been stupid since they started going with it. But let's just talk about it. Intellectual brutality. These people are supposed to be smarter than everybody else. Okay. Well, there's some things in football that you do that are smart. And one of them is when you have a huge lead in the fourth quarter, even if it's 14 points, you run the clock. You're not snapping it at 11 and 13 and 15 seconds on the clock. They have a live ball, the clock running, and they snap it with 15 seconds. I just can't understand. You do that 3 times, and that's 40 to 45 seconds that you could have burned off the clock. Well, U of H scores with 15 seconds left to tie the game. That matters. UTSA did this last week. They were just going very lackadaisical in the fourth quarter when they needed to score. Well, Rice needed to prevent U of H from scoring, which they were not doing a good job of. And the fact that they did that, I just am so frustrated with that. This intellectual brutality is a lie. Okay, my lights just went out. It's a lie. How does that happen? Go ahead, Starns.
It was that first half. The thing that stuck out to me was the third down defense was just awful. I believe they were 5 of 7, and the first one that they didn't convert, they ended up getting on a fourth down, and then the second one was the half-ending interception that maybe in a way sort of changed the game, but they were just driving easy. They could have gone up 35-7, and just that right there stuck out to me the entire game. I mean, I think that they had something like 323 yards in the first half.
326, yeah.
Yeah. JT Daniels
and ended up with 102 in the second half.
Yeah. JT Daniels almost doubled. his passing yards total from last week against UT in the first half.
Is that good?
It's not bad.
Yeah.
He looked like the JT Daniels that was supposed to be the guy,
5-star, right?
the 5-star in 2018 at USC.
Yeah. Well, 4 schools ago.
Yeah.
West Virginia and Georgia. Yeah. It's hard to keep track of how many schools he's played for. The thing I got out of the first half, U of H came with no juice. They had no energy. They did not. It was like they didn't care. Nelson Caesar in the post game said that they were looking ahead, and then he came back and said, "Well, maybe I was looking ahead." But the fact is, it looked like everybody was looking ahead. They're looking ahead to TCU.
Yeah.
And I understand that on a certain level. But these are people you see all the time. They're in your own city. They hadn't beaten you since 2010.
2010.
I mean, that was the year that Case Keenum went down and Rice won on a bizarre David Pylan interception fest. And they beat you in 2008, I think, 56-42, when Dana was here. And it's just strange to me that you wouldn't play this game with urgency. 2 years ago in this stadium, I don't want to say Dana's job was on the line, but had U of H lost that game, the higher ups had a decision to make, and they had told Dana that he had to win it. And so when U of H won 44-7 or whatever it was, and there's a famous photo of Dana at the pool at his house with the Bayou bucket and having a drink, and that was his celebration. It was that big a deal to him because it was that pivotal a moment in his career. And that team played with a purpose in this game. This team did not, at least for a half, until JT Daniels threw that horrible interception in this corner, which the only place you could not miss it was where he missed it. And Sean Thomas was taking photos for us today because Mario Puente had a new son yesterday and obviously had better things to do. And so Sean got a great photo of the interception, and he caught that ball like right here in the corner of the end zone. You just can't do that. There's a comment right here. Steve says that they're looking ahead to TCU like a deer in headlights, which is almost accurate. There was no headlight. There was a train coming right at them, and they had no idea how to respond. But that play in the corner of the end zone, if you believe momentum is a real thing, then that was the whole thing. The whole momentum changed. Congrats, Mario. And
Yes,
U of H came out in the second half, and they put that big drive together. They didn't get any points out of it, but you felt it shifting. And it was too little too late, though.
Yeah. Nelson Caesar saying that he himself was looking ahead to TCU. And it seemed like the team was doing that, like you said. I mean, they were doing what I think most U of H fans were doing.
Right, but there's a difference.
Honestly. But
yeah,
there's a difference. That can't manifest itself on the field. That just can't for a team. And thank you.
Yeah.
And
I've got all these banners I'm ready to go with.
And something that was pretty interesting was you and I sort of only caught the tail end of Dana's press conference, but
yeah,
seemed to be talking about
Rice.
How they they had a bad week of practice to end the week. I remember Tuesday he said it was one of their best days, and then
one of the best days ever.
Yeah, and then in the presser today he said that Wednesday was bad, and it didn't get much better after that. And
so here's what I have this question about. They had that great day of practice on Tuesday, the best Tuesday ever, Dana said. And so he goes to his radio show and says that on the radio show, is I believe how it went. And they come out Wednesday and they fall flat on their face. And they don't have any emotion. And they don't have, and Dana seems like he was worried about that all week. Well, why don't you do something about it? And I understand there's a limit of what a coach can do. But if you see it coming, you've got to change something, whether it's how you manage the first part of the game or whatever, but you've got to change something.
Yeah, you can't, you can't control.
It's a good point, Jeff. Good point.
That's his job to have them ready. It's totally his job, just like Jib said. I mean, if a team has a bad practice, it's your job to fix that so they don't go in unprepared. And he said that they did that. They went in unprepared. Well, part of that does fall on the players.
100%.
But he's the coach, and if you're going to say the team was unprepared, well, whose shoulders does that fall on the most, do you think? Honestly,
I would say that the coach. Donovan Smith ended up 21 of 39, 1 touchdown, 1 interception, took 3 sacks, 1 on that devastating third down. Sam Brown had 8 catches for 124. He has had 2 really quality games. Yep. He hasn't gotten into the end zone, but that's going to come. I am really impressed how he's handled himself this year. He just seems more mature, and he's letting the game come to him. He's not getting frustrated like he did last year. But coming back to this is the 4th AAC private school in a row U of H has lost to. Lost to Tulane in that overtime game. They lost to SMU in that embarrassing 66-point whatever it was. They lose to Tulsa to end the year, which is probably more embarrassing than SMU. And then you give up 28 in a row and give up the game at the end here. Tulane, SMU, Tulsa, Rice. These are the schools you think you're too good to be an elite with. And, you're not going to play any of the other AAC private schools for any time to come. And Rice, there's nothing on the schedule, and it doesn't really work out in the next few years. And so everybody's just going to have this over you, and that's embarrassing. And by the way, there's a comment here. I'm going to pop it. Empty stadiums. Rice was basically saying this game was close to sold out. This is basically what the crowd looked like for most of the game right here.
Yeah.
There was nobody here. And they announced 23,000 or something, 23,425, which is a joke. It was maybe 13,000, maybe 12, maybe, I don't know, 5.
I didn't see any fans on the second deck.
No, it wasn't. And the opposite side of the stadium, there was right here, 1 fan for the most part for the first half of the game, and he had an umbrella. And I got a photo of him because it's this wide expanse, and then that guy. And so U of H will come back Saturday with TCU at home. I don't know how that's going to go. I don't know how fans are going to take it. But we're going to pause for just 1 second. This is a segue.
I'm Stuart Gus, official personal injury attorney of U of H Athletics. As you know, a great quarterback wins championships. If you've been injured in an auto accident, big or small, you can trust Gus to quarterback your case.
Call 866-TRUST-GUS today. Principal office, Houston, Texas.
So let's ask each other a few questions, if you don't mind.
Can I go first?
Starns, sure, let's go.
Should we have expected this?
Yes.
After a game
yes
against UTSA that was really ugly, we were, I think, we go out of it optimistic, but maybe we shouldn't have. Frank Harris was very obviously hurt.
The offense and they didn't have a good offensive day today.
Great. And, again, everybody's looking at that TCU game. Everybody. And after a game like UTSA, I mean, should we have expected something like this to happen against the Rice game? And I remember you said last week at the end of this pod, weird things happen in this game. And
Weird things happen in this stadium.
yes,
This stadium is freaking weird.
yes,
It's like a black hole.
Here,
It's Autry Court is right over Tudor, but it was Autry Court with the big blue curtain of death. And weird stuff happens there, and weird stuff happens here.
I went I came here to watch my brother play for 5 years. I know firsthand the weird stuff that goes on. I feel like as surprising as it was, maybe we shouldn't have been. Maybe it really wasn't. It shouldn't have been.
So I thought a trap was coming, but I thought it was going to be Sam Houston. I thought between TCU and going to Tech would be a trap. And I didn't think it was really going to be this week. What got me to start thinking about it was the line went from 10 and a half to 7 in like a day and a half. That doesn't happen. And Chidozie was out and Caldwell was out. Cedric Williams played. I don't know how particularly well. I'd have to go back and look. But whether you want to call it a trap or not, they weren't emotionally prepared to play the game. And in some way, that's a trap. And when you're not up for it and when you're looking ahead, and that's what they did. And there's really no excuse for it, but at the same time, you have to expect it. Every year, U of H has one of these time games. Maybe it's 2, maybe it's 4. But there's always that game where the emotion is not there. And you better hope that's the only time that happens this year, because this team could beat a lot of teams on this schedule, but they could lose to every single one. And I'm including Sam Houston in that. If that first half team plays in the Sam Houston game, you're going to lose. And there's just really no nice way to put it. Let me ask you, if I can find my question. I wrote it down. I really did. What was the most disappointing part of this for you? Take away the trap part and like, what do you think, what surprised you the most?
The most disappointing thing I think was that last play, that fade to Matthew Golden. Donovan Smith, they couldn't really stop Donovan Smith running. He got them the last 2 touchdowns there with his legs, and they get the touchdown there. They go for 2, and he's in an empty backfield. Rice calls a timeout. They go back out. He's in an empty backfield again, and he, throws a fade to Matthew Golden, which connected, I believe, in the last overtime. But you have something that's working there. You need this to win. You need it to at least extend the game. I don't understand why. And again, I'm not a coach. I'm not going to pretend to know play calls and things like that. But I don't know why you don't just at least go with a more, either an easier pass or just a quarterback run there, honestly.
Yeah. So Nuke puts up that the right tackle was on skates, and I brought this up to you a couple of times in the game. Unije had a bad game. And if you're thinking of this team is going to go play against UT and TCU and go to Tech and go to Baylor, even though Baylor's 0-2, and even though Tech lost tonight, those are much better defensive lines than what you saw tonight. And I would be supremely worried about that right side of the line. Tank Jenkins was taken out and replaced with Peyton Dunn for a while. I believe Jenkins came back. But Unije struggled, and he struggled at this part of the season last year, and he got replaced. And I'm curious to see if there's any changes going into TCU on the right side of that line, especially at right tackle, because when we see the PFF stats tomorrow, it's going to show him giving up maybe 10 or 12 pressures. I mean, it was that bad. And if it's going to be that bad on the right side, you're going to get your lunch eaten. Now, intellectual brutality changed everything they were doing. And they did it offensively. They did it defensively. They basically, at one point in the second half, up either 28, maybe 21, but they took their foot off the brake. And that was so surprising to me because the way they took that lead was being hyper aggressive. And they're just, we got them. They're not coming back. And they damn sure, they nearly lost this. And there's some part of me that says they should have lost this. And I would have laughed at Rice had they had that 28-point lead. And then with intellectual brutality, just tapped out. Peyton Dunn needs to be starting. He looked good in his limited minutes. I agree with that. That's fine.
Do you think U of H should have gone for it when Donovan got that touchdown there?
No. You have more talent. You have more talent than Rice. You should be able to win it in an overtime or 2 overtimes or the 3 overtime, the sudden death, whatever that is. I don't like. But you just should be better. I was shocked that Rice did not go for 2 in the first overtime. I really was. And it ended up working out for them. But I guess there's some part of me that says you score with 15 seconds left. Maybe that's the time to just punch them right in the face. Go for that 2 if you have a great 2-point play. And I don't know if U of H had a great 2-point play. They made one, or they did not make one. I'm sorry. They kicked the extra point and then they didn't. Like you, I hate throws to the corner of the end zone from the 3-yard line. I just think there's no time to make that play right. You just got to throw it straight up in the air, and it's just not football. That's not what guys practice all the time. And I just think I'm not a fan. What do you think happens this coming week? How does U of H look? Do you think he gets their attention?
I honestly, he might. I wouldn't, and I think maybe he probably will. But I don't know if that's going to be enough next week. TCU, they did lose a lot of talent and they lost to Colorado, but TCU is a good team. And if talent for talent, even if U of H maybe is, maybe they come out hot, I would expect TCU to win. And who knows? Maybe they've been saving everything for this TCU game. Maybe they've been saving some of their run game stuff, some of their passing stuff. I feel like maybe they had to break it out tonight to bring it back. But like you said, if the right side of the O-line is going to struggle like it did tonight against TCU, who knows how much? I don't know how much.
Do you think it dampens the crowd? Is there still a sellout crowd? Is it still this crazy atmosphere, or do you think it's going to be? The U of H crowd definitely thinned out in the second half at halftime, and then in the second half, as U of H kind of stumbled to score early on. Do you think it looks like a sellout?
I think it can be. I think my default answer is yes, but I
got my light back.
There you go. I just, I feel like after the UTSA game, it seemed like, okay, we're this crowd came in. You know, the crowd maybe didn't look like what the numbers were, but it was still a good crowd. They were in it. They were there the entire game.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, we're ready for this TCU game. It's going to be sold out, all this stuff. When you lose a game like this to Rice, to your rival, to who you consider your lesser, and
a smaller team.
The smaller team,
Nelson
like
said it.
Nelson Caesar said.
Yeah.
I could imagine that really taking a blow to the fan base there. I still think it'll be a good crowd. I think it'll be close to a sellout, but I don't think that atmosphere that maybe the program was looking for, that sellout, huge atmosphere, roaring atmosphere that you maybe got in the Louisville game back in 2016, I wouldn't expect that to be there.
Yeah, I just don't know if the fan base believes in the head coach. And even during the 12-win season, it felt like it was a conditional support. Well, how do we look next week? How does it go next game? And I just think that people have given him chances, and this is his 5th year. And, you know, 3 coaches in a row before him didn't make it 3 or 4 years. Levine was fired in 3, Herman belted after 2, and Major was fired after 2. I have said from day one, in regards to this year, they weren't going to get rid of Dan because you've made this big jump into the Big 12 and everything's uncertain. And if you fire a coach going into next year, everything's uncertain again. And I'm of the belief that you don't fire a guy until you have somebody in place. Because the worst thing you can do is fire someone and go hire some unknown or not have your guy. And then you could be in the same boat, but now for 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 more years. And you best have those ducks in a row. But let's get back to tonight. Rice ran for 48 yards on 25 carries. I feel like they ran the ball pretty well in the 2 overtimes. They didn't run the ball worth a damn the rest of the night. And they didn't really try to. I'm surprised they had 25 rushes, to be honest. They threw it 39 times for 380 yards. So what you saw with Frank Harris last week, maybe that's just not who this defense is. I bought it a little more than, for instance, Brad Towns, who does talk about them Cougars with me, a little more than he bought it. But I was give the benefit of the doubt. You know, so much changing, so many new guys, but it didn't look any better tonight, especially in the first half. And you got back into it, but you let Rice score in both overtimes, and that's not good. And I don't know what to really call it. It's disappointing for sure, but is this a turning point? We've thought that a couple different times in the past. Texas Tech 2 years ago was one that a lot of people thought was a turning point. And it turned out to be, but in the other way. So next week is going to be one of the most interesting things that U of H fans will have experienced in a home game. You're going into a league, the league you've wanted for 25 years, but you're going into it losing to the team across town in a dispiriting and disheartening way. And you still really don't know what you have. You know, if you don't get the 2 4th downs, the crazy catch by Golden on the other end, the penalty, you lose this game in regulation. If Rice runs any time off the damn clock, you lose in regulation. So far, this seems not that good, and I'm concerned that things are gonna they're just gonna backtrack, and you're just gonna have a lot of problems.
I wonder how things would feel if they had won, if they had pulled this out. Would it be much different? I mean, I think ultimately,
like from a fan perspective or from a team perspective? Because those are two different things.
That's true. I think, I guess from a fan perspective, it would have been a lot better.
I think people would have still. I think the comments that we have would still kind of look the same.
Yeah.
They would start with, "I'm glad we won, comma, but," and I'm giving everybody credit for their punctuation.
And
the fans would not be happy with what they saw. And what I saw briefly when I was on Twitter was it was a good comeback, and that's just, I think, how they would have felt had they won. I'm glad we won, but.
Yeah.
Now, the team, who knows how that changes? It could change for the better, or it could say, you know what? We didn't come out, we didn't try, we weren't very good, we weren't focused, and we still won. So we can do that again. Same Houston or Cincinnati or West Virginia. And I don't know how that would have played out. And, you know, this team put a lot of stinkers on the board last year. A 13 quarterback with Tulane, Tulsa at the end of the year, which just made their coach was fired by that point, and you lose to him. And so I don't know where this team goes. And I think the gut check will be tomorrow watching film and then Tuesday getting on the practice field. I guarantee you Dana will not say this is the best Tuesday practice we've had this year. I guarantee it.
I wonder, I mean, this is just, it's such a blow. Like, you know, when we, in my mind, you know, exiting the UTSA game, going into the UTSA game, is these first 4 weeks, you need every win you can get. If you can go out 3-1, I think you're thrilled, because then you start with then you go to Texas Tech, West Virginia comes here, that's one you can get, right? Then I believe it's Texas after that. Let me check the schedule right here.
West Virginia, Texas, and then you go to Kansas State, and then at Baylor.
And then Cincinnati, that's your partial AAC schedule there. Oklahoma State, home closer, and then UCF. You need every single one in these first 4 weeks that you can get. And losing to Rice, you put yourself behind the 8 ball tremendously, I feel like.
Yeah. So I thought the team would lose to UTSA and beat Rice handily. And I'm 0-2. And so I'm not putting any expectations. Oh, fade me big time. Look, if you want to make money, I bet home dogs. I love a home dog. This home dog I didn't bet. I don't gamble anymore. But if in our pick'em, I chose U of H. I just thought the talent would be too much and the team would show something. And didn't happen. So my expectations are nothing come TCU. Look, if they remember to put their pants on, I'm happy. No expectations at all. And so let's do one more thing. Why not?
I'm Stuart Gus, official personal injury attorney of U of H Athletics. If you've been injured in an auto accident, big or small, who you have on your team matters. You can trust Gus to get you the best possible results for your case.
Call 866-TRUST-GUS.
I don't know about you, but I think I'm getting really good with segues into commercials like that. It's very seamless. You can't even tell. What else you got, Starns? Any other thoughts? Looking at these numbers, U of H ran the ball. They ran the ball pretty well.
That was the one thing that I think was a positive for this game, especially in the second half. They ran really well. They're running on the outside. Tony Mathis looked good. Parker Jenkins looked good in his few snaps.
Parker Jenkins' first run was fantastic.
Yes.
It was 22 yards, I think.
Yeah.
And it was like, oh. And then they didn't put him in the situation again. And yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the quarterback runs with Donovan Smith I thought were fantastic. The running
Yeah, they
game
got
looked,
outside the tackles with him and
yeah,
looked very good.
it looked really good, and they were getting at least 4 yards every run. It seemed like toward down the stretch there.
Yeah.
But I wonder, does it matter? Honestly, Rice. I think their D line is good. They played well against Texas last week. But when they go up against TCU, when they go up against these Big 12 defensive lines, is that going to be is that is that going to sustain? I mean, we saw what it was against UTSA last week. It was bad.
Yeah.
Again, it looked different this week, but I wonder how it looked great, and that's great. But you wonder how much of a grain of salt do you have to take it with going into the Big 12 schedule?
You punted your ass off tonight. And you've got to really be excited about that this year. It's a senior, but I mean, Lane got tackled on, I believe, the first attempt. And they only called it the 5-yard penalty. I think it probably deserved the personal foul. I would want to go watch it again. But he averaged like 53 a kick. I mean, that's big time. And he would punt it, and he punted him. He got him down to the 8, and they still went 92 yards for a score. And that I'll agree with that right there. I would like to see him. The problem is that I think your two running backs that ran other than Jenkins, Mathis and Speed showed you some things. I don't think Brandon Campbell ran the ball at all. He did not. He was supposed to. There was something weird with the depth chart this week where he was listed as a kick returner, and I just thought that was so strange because he'd been nicked up a little bit. And what big bruising running back returns kicks? But Jenkins was back there at least in the second half, and so I'm curious what that happened. Peyton Sawyer did not have a good night returning kicks. And who else? Joseph Manjack did not have a good night throwing the ball. He was over one.
Malik Fleming had a couple good returns again.
Yeah, both of them were 12 yards, I think, and so that's good. He got dinged up there at the end of the game, the end of regulation, I believe. But there's so many more questions now than there were 5 hours ago. And you saw progress with Donovan Smith in the second half. I don't think you did in the first half. You saw progress with a lot of things. Your offensive line regressed. I really don't think a lot of the pressure, I don't think much or any came from the left side. You're really solid over there, but you've got problems on the right side. The defensive line struggled. You're missing 2 guys. And if Chidozie is not in there blocking things in the middle, you're going to have a lot of problems going forward. I really am curious what his situation is. Dana said that he didn't start last week for a reason he didn't want to go into. I'm curious what that is if we ever find out. And then his injury situation with an ankle. But this was disappointing. It's 43-41. Rice still has not taken it off the scoreboard. They may never. It might be here next time they host a game. But it's just another loss to a private school, a small private school. And there's no reason those schools should be keeping up with a big state school with the budget U of H has, with the belief they have in who they are, where they're going, and what Rice can recruit and what you can recruit and what you got in the transfer portal. This should be a better team. And I'm going to let you have the last thoughts, and we're going to get out of here because I'm old and I need to go to bed. And all these people that are angry in the comments, they need to go to bed too. I didn't really read this.
Well,
Well,
they can't go 2-12.
that would be hard. I'm
Yeah.
going to give you that one, Starns.
They have to make the
2 and 12
conference
not going to
championship
happen.
and then lose a bowl game.
That'd be something weird would happen, and I think we might want to. I would be interested in that. And no, we did not. U of H did not throw it to a tight end. The tight ends were. I know there was some blocking, but I really just don't have a memory of them. I don't know what that says. If it says something about me, first off, we're 100 miles from the damn field, and so you couldn't even see numbers. I do not like the press box here. It is antiquated. You have to. There's an elevator that's about like this, and I don't like elevators to start with. And you come up the elevator, and then you have to go up these steep steps up to another level. And it's really it's just an old stadium, and it looks like it hasn't been touched. But you can't really see anything from up here. And I don't know where this was going, where I started, but this place is weird. Everything that happens here is weird, and U of H should not be playing here for a few years, and I think that's good for the program because weird stuff happens here. So take us out. What are your final thoughts?
Final thoughts?
Oh, I need to go to bed. That's what I was trying to say. Yeah.
I want to go to bed too. I think
You're 21 years old. It's not even midnight. You're still going to go to the club. You got time. It's fine.
Come on, I got this job. I'm not that fun.
That's true. I'm well aware.
I think the way to sum it up from a U of H perspective is it's a gut punch. This is a loss that you really couldn't afford to take, and you came out flat. You fought your way back, but you lost it at the end of the day. And now this next week, it's going to be, I feel like it's going to be a come to Jesus moment that'll culminate on Saturday. We'll see how they respond, win or lose, just how they look, how they play, how they come out. We're going to see, I think, really what this team is for the rest of the season, the beginning of that TCU game. And yeah, I think that's really all I got. Shout out to my brother, if you don't mind.
Shout out. Yeah.
Shout out to my brother. Yeah.
Starnes' brother played on the 2013 CUSA champion team at Rice. They had their 10-year reunion tonight, right?
Yes.
Second quarter, they got recognized on the field. That was a pretty cool moment for you and for your family.
That was fun. My family was here. He was there with his son. We were all I went down with him on the field before they went, before they honored them. He was with his son. His son tried to run out on the field during a play. That was pretty funny.
Well, it was the first half. So U of H, well, no, he had been rooting for Rice. Yeah, they didn't need him. They didn't need him.
Yeah.
They were doing fine.
And it was a fun moment. It was a fun day in that perspective. Getting to see my family and get to be with my brother for a little bit. Also get to see some old teammates of his who I got to meet and who I got to know a little bit as a kid. Now they see me here as a 21-year-old. That's pretty fun. So I want to just shout out to that. That was a fun moment. And I think I'll let you go to bed.
We're going to cover this week just like we do every week. But after a loss, people get really angry for a day or so, and then they kind of tune out for a few days. Don't tune out. Please read us. And look at Gus right up there somewhere. Trust Gus. 43-41. I would have thought a million different innings, but not that score. Double overtime. U of H, this overtime thing, not a fan. But yeah, you have no idea what this program is. You have no idea what this program is and what your identity is. This team has been searching for an identity for so long. Even in the 12-2 season, there really wasn't an identity. This team has no identity yet. And maybe we see it start building in TCU. Maybe we don't. So we're going to check out. Thank y'all so much. We're going to end with the intro video because I think it's a pretty cool video. It's awesome moments from U of H history. And we're going to do that in 3, 2, take care, Starns.
Take care.
I'm Stuart Gus, official personal injury attorney of U of H Athletics. As you know, a great quarterback wins championships. If you've been injured in an auto accident, big or small, you can trust Gus to quarterback your case.
Call 866-TRUST-GUS today. Principal Office, Houston, Texas.
Yahoo!